afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's 12 noon, and I think it's about time we start the webinar. So, without further ado, once again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's with great pleasure to have you join our live webinar, Vertebra Digital Transformation Series. We are all faced with new challenges in terms of keeping up momentum and motivation in the virtual world, which has become a new normal. As a result of the recent development, it has become pertinent that we move into the future of technology in managing our day-to-day activities, especially with a constant reminder from the National Public Health Institute why it is important to practice physical/social distancing. This is why we at Vertebra have put this webinar together to share with you how to embrace and build on technology advancements to meet business requirements. Today, we will be discussing e-procurement, everything you need to know. At the end of this session, you will achieve full visibility, control, and management of your procurement spend within your determined budgets. You will gain better insights in spotting bottleneck and eliminating latency in decision making. You would also be able to identify the best means, methods, and simplified forms with automated processes. Subsequently, my colleague Matthew Omwaka would facilitate this session, while Adela Yomi Patrick would read the questions and answer. We'll implore you to please drop your questions and answer in the chat room or use the raise hand feature to signify if you'd like to talk or ask questions at the end of the session. Also, Jameson Inobong, our technical expert, will be answering technology-related questions. Thank you so very much as you listen. Matthew Omwaka, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monsu. And I want to welcome everyone to this webinar on e-procurement. Vertebra has been at the forefront of providing technology-enabled business solutions to all of our clients, both in the private and the public sector. Procurement over the years has traditionally been looked at by business leaders as a cost center. However, with the advent of emerging digital technologies, procurement today has moved to become a profit center. Now, e-procurement is at the heart of why procurement is today positioned as a cost center. The advent of e-procurement has helped for procurement managers to automate the procurement process and scale the procurement process. Vertebra is at the center of organizations that are spearheading this new campaign. There's no gainsaying that our economy today globally has been affected by the pandemic, COVID-19. Organizations have consistently changed work cultures to adapt to the dynamic changes that are occurring in our economy today. Organizations are pivoting to digital channels to be able to serve their customers and their clients. Now, if your business is structured in such a way that for you to be able to fulfill your business responsibilities, you need to meet your client physically. Your business is most likely not going to survive this season. So what are you going to do? You're going to have to embrace digital technologies. Now, before we go deep into what we have for you today, we would like to build a background and refresh our memory on what is procurement really? Now, procurement has been defined as buying the right materials in the right quantity at the right moment for the right price and from the right supplier. Now, to do this effectively, you need intelligence information. You need intelligent information to make the right procurement decisions. According to Van Wil, a foremost business leader, he defines procurement as a process that is broken into two parts. You have the tactical procurement and you have the operational procurement. The tactical procurement speaks about where you're planning the procurement activity. Here it's where you specify the goods and the services you want to purchase. You identify the vendors or the suppliers that you want to work with. And here is also where you initiate a contract. And then the operational part, the operational procurement speaks about where you deliver the order to the supplier, where that order is monitored to be sure the supplier is going to supply as at when due, and also talks about the evaluation of the entire procurement process. So procurement, according to Van Wil, is broken down into two parts. However, it's broken down into 6 phases. Each part has 3 phases. Now, we've spoken about specification, selection of suppliers, and then contracting. That makes up the tactical phase. And then you go to the operational phase where you have the ordering of the goods and the services, the monitoring, and the evaluation. So this is the basic procurement workflow. Now, in our climb and in a lot of organizations, even up until today, this process is managed or executed manually. And if you continue to execute this process manually, the procurement department will remain a cost center, and business managers will not see any kind of value add. But for you to pivot to become the department, procurement that is providing value and providing insights into the business and be a value adding part of the business, you need to move your procurement department into a profit center. And how are you going to become a profit center? Remember that the final product that will come out of your organization, or the final product that will come out of your service that will come out of your organization, is actually a hybrid of products that you have supplied or services that you have bought from other vendors that you put together to have the final product. Now, to become a profit center, you're going to have to digitally transform your procurement process. Now, how is that possible? That is actually possible by the embracing of digital technologies. I'm going to take a little bit of time to explain some of these digital technologies as listed in my slide, one of which is web technologies. Now, web technologies helps the procurement process to be automated. So with the advent of web technologies, the procurement process end to end, from identification and selection of your product to the final delivery of that product, is completely automated using web technology. Data analytics and big data. Now, data analytics is at the core of how the procurement process can begin to bring value to an organization. You know that after you have completely automated the procurement process, what happens is that you have brought that procurement process into a platform whereby you can warehouse all of the data and the information gotten from clients, from suppliers, and from the staff in a single repository, in a database. Now, with data analytics, all of that data and information, using smart technologies and algorithms, can now be processed and analyzed. After they are processed and analyzed, you will draw outputs, and these outputs will be used to make strategic procurement decisions. Decisions will include, where can I get the best price and from which supplier? Which markets offers me the best deals? What's happening to my stock? Are my stock depleting? If they are depleting, automatically I can replenish my stock. So that's the beauty of data analytics. In addition to this, you have robotics. In some environments today, robots are taking over the repetitive and routine tasks performed hitherto by the human resource in the procurement department. Now, when robots take over those repetitive tasks and routine tasks, it gives the procurement officers the opportunity and platform to begin to provide more value-adding service to the organization, thereby increasing operational excellence, thereby improving the revenue of the organization. Now, these are some of the value propositions of digital transformation in procurement, one of which is automating the procurement process. I've explained a bit around that. Now, when the procurement process is automated from a manual system whereby you are working with disparate files and working from the back of a diary, you reduce turnaround time. The complex and cumbersome nature of a manual procurement process is completely changed by the reduction of turnaround time. You have the opportunity to have stored and organized data such that you can know from the click of a button, you can know how much supply came in a particular month, what's happening to our stock in January, what's happening to it in February, just from a single dashboard. Secondly, you can have analytics and reports. These analytics and reports will help top management to consistently make the right business decisions. Another value proposition is the improvement in operations. What we call operational excellence gets improved. And clearly, costs will be saved, because when you reduce time, you reduce costs, because we all know that time is money. Now, over the years, how the procurement brief has been executed has evolved and transformed over the years. Now, if you pay attention to this graph, you will see that initially, procurement was fundamentally paper-based. Procurement managers and the procurement officers focus on executing the procurement brief by the use of paper. Then it moved to some level of electronic usage. For example, a procurement manager wants to execute a procurement brief. He will most likely call 2 or 3 suppliers with a phone or send them an email, and they will respond to quotes. But it's actually a very disjointed way of managing the procurement process. Some organizations will use an ERP system, an enterprise resource planning system. I will explain further on the enterprise resource planning system as we move along. E-procurement. Now, when the manual procurement process is automated, what you have is an online real-time procurement process, what we call an e-procurement system. Now, the E there stands for electronic, digital procurement. We have defined it as the business-to-business purchase of and sales of services and supplies over the internet or through internet technologies. Now, how does this work? Firstly, to be able to have a functional e-procurement system, you will need the internet. You will need for your organization and the stakeholders to be connected via the internet or possibly through a virtual private network. So once you are connected through the internet, all of the stakeholders can consume the services of that e-procurement application. The other thing that is required are also devices. You need personal computers, tablets, and mobile phones. And then the last but not the least is the platform. The platform is what we're really talking about today, the e-procurement application. Now, this is a platform whereby all of the features in an average procurement process are deployed. So once you have these three factors set up, you are good to go. Now, the next thing that is so critical and important are the operational factors. Now, after you have set up the e-procurement platform, you will need to begin to onboard suppliers and vendors. And to do that, you possibly will have set up pre-qualification criteria that you will use to qualify and vet the vendors, so that when they come into the platform, you can begin to transact. And transacting now means that you set up your request for proposal, you set up your request for information on that platform, and the vendors that have already been pre-qualified will have access to that information, and they can send in their quotations, they can send in their proposals on one single platform. Now, as we go along, we want to clearly show you a comparison between e-procurement and the traditional procurement, so that you begin to see the value therein in the e-procurement system. Traditionally, procurement happens just as this flow chart shows. You have a particular need, and you get approval from your line manager to execute that need. After you get the approval, you inform the purchasing or the procurement department. The procurement department will now send out requests for proposal and request for quotation from all the suppliers in her bouquet. And then they will receive those quotations, and after they have analyzed the quotations, they get approval on which particular vendor to go with. And then they create a purchase order, and the purchase order is fulfilled. Now, this process, normally in the traditional procurement method, will happen arguably between 1 and 2 weeks, which is a lot of time. Now, with the electronic procurement approach, when the need is identified from a single platform, you can get your approval from your line manager. From a single platform, you can send out requests for quotations and proposals. From that platform also, the vendors will send in their quotations, send in their proposals. From that same platform, you will do your job and you do your analysis of the quotations, and you decide on which particular vendor to go with, and you send them the purchase order from that same platform. Payments and invoice are also sent out from this same platform. And this process can happen under 2 days. Imagine the time that has been saved. Now, the entire value chain of e-procurement has lots of variants. And these variants are what we call the e-tools, and that's what we want to talk about on this slide. One of which is the e-ordering. The e-ordering is just the basic process of putting your request online and using the e-procurement application to receive quotation and executing that particular transaction. Now, e-tendering, it's another variant. E-tendering is actually big in the public sector environment. Now, the public sector environment has traditionally you will have tenders placed on the tender boards or placed in the pages of newspapers. So instead of doing that with the e-tendering module, you can just put those tenders online, and your pre-qualified suppliers and vendors can have access to those information. Now, another variant is the e-reverse auction. What does this mean? This means online, as a buyer, you can set up a system whereby you have multiple suppliers of that particular goods or service. So the advantage to you as a buyer is the fact that you can get best price for best value using the system, because you will be able to analyze prices and alternatives from all of the suppliers that are on your system. A web-based ERP. Now, an enterprise resource planning application is an application that automates the entire business processes of an average organization. So what that application does is to automate your finance, automate your sales, automate customer relationship management, automate performance management, and also automate procurement. So you can have a semblance of procurement happen in an ERP application. E-sourcing. E-sourcing just talks about a platform that you can use to get suppliers to provide you with value and cost implications for your goods and the services that you are looking out for. And now finally, we have the e-informing. The e-informing platform just talks about a platform that is not focused on commercial procurement activities. All it just renders is information about what I would like to purchase, information about what I sell. So the leg of the commercial bit is taken out of this. So some individuals want to have this module, and that's why it's part of the variant that it's out there in the marketplace. The e-procurement value chain. Now, the e-procurement value chain just talks in more detail about some of the values that I have shared as I've gone on with the presentation. The first is the indent management, which talks about the workflow involved in the preparation of tenders. The second one is e-tendering. I've spoken about e-tendering. E-auctioning, I spoke about that too. Now, vendor management. Now, this is a model that helps to manage vendors and suppliers on your e-procurement platform. You have catalog management. Catalog management just talks about the bouquet of services that vendors render. So they put it in a catalog and they put it out there. Now you have purchase order.
Hello, Matthew. Are you there? Hello, Matthew. Hello, Matthew. Please, we sincerely apologize for the network delay. We'll be back shortly. Let's get through to our presenter 1 minute. Please stay tuned, sisters and mass. We apologize for the delay. Hello, Matthew.
Oh, sorry. Sorry
Okay,
about
so
that.
you can go ahead, Matthew.
Okay, sorry about that. That was just some technical hitches. Now, the e-procurement value chain. So I was talking about e-invoicing. Now, for e-invoicing, we have a scenario whereby the suppliers can invoice the business owner from the system. Secondly, you have e-payments. Now, suppliers don't have to go to the office of the owner of the business, but he can get paid from the system. And then one of the value chain in e-procurement is also the ability to handle contract management. Now, I had spoken about ERP prior, about the fact that an average ERP system can handle the procurement process. Unfortunately, because the ERP is a very large application that a lot of multinationals deploy to handle procurement, the procurement process, the entire procurement process is not completely taken care of in most ERP. So what then happens is the fact that procurement managers will go out of the ERP application to handle some procurement briefs. And this is not optimal. So today, what transpires is to use what we call the best of breed approach. The best of breed approach is where you have an application that is niche and focused on the procurement process. And this is where the e-procurement application comes to play. So what happens is when you set up a standalone niche procurement process application, you find out that this will help you to focus on the entire value chain of procurement using this application. Now, the beauty of it is that you can, with the help of APIs, integrate into your existing ERP application if you have it already. So the issues around having to protect the information on your HR or your finance from your vendors doesn't come into play because you have a standalone e-procurement application. Now, we are not going to leave you out in the cold because all that we have said to whet your appetite and give you information is to bring you to a place and explain to you also that we have a proprietary homegrown e-procurement application called Procure Express that we believe will solve the challenge of procurement of an average organization. So our e-procurement system is named Procure Express. It is web-based, centralized, data-driven, and it can be connected by stakeholders from anywhere in the world as long as they have internet access. And this application can be deployed on the cloud, it can be deployed on-prem, and can also be deployed on a dedicated host. What are the features of our Procure Express, our e-procurement system? One of the features is vendor registration, as you can see in my slide. When suppliers are interested in doing business with your organization, what will happen is you get them to register. After they register, you move to vendor evaluation and approval. At the place of vendor evaluation and approval is where those preset criteria are domiciled. And this is where you begin to think, is this vendor duly registered with the government of the day? In Nigeria, is the vendor registered with CAC? Is this vendor a tax-paying vendor? Does this vendor have the competence and the professional wherewithal to provide service to our organization? So it's at that place that you do all of that. And that is where you now select your vendor or your supplier. Then you move to publishing RFQs. This Procure Express gives you the platform to publish your request for quotation. to your pre-qualified vendors and suppliers based on the particular sub-domain of work that they have indicated it's their specialty, whether it is plumbing, whether it is electric installation, whether it is consultancy. You also have a platform whereby you receive quotes. So quotations from the vendors and suppliers can be received through the system. From this same system, you can negotiate those quotes. And after negotiation and approval, you can present the order, the award letter to the supplier through the same system. The supplier and the vendor can also send in their job completion certificate through the system and their way bill if it was goods that were supplied. And from this system, you can analyze the supply and check that everything was supplied according to spec. That's where the service level management takes place. And in addition, you have data analytics embedded where you can have reporting, you can have notifications, you can have the full approval workflow in our Procure Express application. Now, the Procure Express application, how does it work? It has two fundamental interfaces. The first interface is the administrative interface. Now, the administrative interface is where the owner of the application sets up the requirements for the suppliers. What are the requirements that you're looking out for? This is where you set it up, the administrative interface. This is where you determine who you will bring on board as your preferred vendor or supplier that you intend to work with. You also have a feature called vendor management, where vendors are managed. You also have another feature called the vendor bulk notification. So instead of the method that is not exactly efficient of sending requests for quotes to individual suppliers, what happens here is that when you identify your need, you can just create a single template of that need, and just by one click of the button, it can be pushed to multiple suppliers and multiple vendors. You also have a feature called the job management feature, where you do proper bid analysis. So all of the quotations that come in, you have the platform giving you the access to analyze them in conjunction with your procurement officers, and a decision will be made on who to go with. You also have a module there that helps to handle reports management. So all the reports that are necessary for top management can also be generated from the administrative interface. Now, the second interface that we have on Procure Express is the vendor interface. Now, the vendor interface is the interface for the suppliers and the vendors. So this is the method by which the vendors can access the Procure Express system. So what are the modules that are available for the vendors? One is vendor registration. This is where they get registered. After they get registered and they're deemed fit to be a player in that organization, they begin to receive RFQs and RFPs. So there's a module there that shows current RFQs. You have another module that shows past RFQs. You also have a module that will show current quotes or quotes that have been sent out by the vendor to the supplier.
Hello, Matthew, are you there? Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the technical glitch once again. I'm sure Matthew is trying all his best to ensure he's back here. We do apologize for any inconveniences.
Then you have another module that shows ongoing between the supply Procure Express application, jobs. The benefits of Procure Express. Some of the benefits I've shared during the course of the presentation, but I'll just zero in on a couple of them here. Now, the flow of information between the procurement department and her suppliers is made a lot more efficient and flexible and traceable. What that means is you can have audit trails. You cannot have a situation where files are missing, quotations are missing with this system. Now, this system also affords you an opportunity to do business intelligence through data analytics. The system also provides a one-stop shop whereby all the stakeholders in the procurement department can have insights to all procurements that are taking place at the time. This helps to reduce time, turnaround time, helps to improve operational excellence. Now, concerning the management of workflow approvals, this system is very dynamic. So you have a scenario whereby even if the manager that is supposed to approve a purchase order is not sitting at his desk, as long as he has internet access and has this application on his system, whether it's his phone or his laptop, he can handle approvals seamlessly. Another exciting benefit is also risk assessment of suppliers and vendors. So vendors and suppliers can be assessed. It is in this place that you begin to check, is this vendor reliable? What's the financial capability of this vendor? How long does this vendor take to deliver his services and his goods? And then you can have a criteria method whereby you have vendors that are excellent, good, and manageable. And that will also determine how you allocate purchase orders to them as you go along with your business. Our deployment options, like I've said before, we can deploy on-prem, can also deploy on the cloud, and then we can also deploy as a dedicated host. Now, our system is designed with state-of-the-art security. So what that means is from the user interface down to the network layer, security is embedded using SSL certificates, firewalls, and data encryption. So you don't have issues around the breach of the system because we use best-in-class security solutions to protect this particular application. That is Procure Express for you. Now I await your questions and feedback. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Matthew. Thank you, and I really do appreciate it. I think he had experienced a bit of technical glitches, but we enjoyed it. So, Adela, Yemi, Patrick, questions and answer at this time, so we can read out, and if you also still have questions, you can use the raise hand feature. Please excuse me. Adela, Yemi, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Mosun. Thank you, Matthew. That was very insightful. So from the question and answer section, we have Mr. Mohammed Lawal Khalil. He's raising his hands. Can we unmute his mic so he can speak?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mohammed. You're welcome.
Let me start by commending the initiative of this very educative presentation. My question is, the procurement system, particularly the public procurement system in Nigeria, is being governed by law. Virtually every bit of the procurement processes are being clearly governed by the Public Procurement Act. How will the e-procurement be embedded, be used to implement public procurement in Nigeria, particularly because of the statutory requirements of getting approval from your tenders board, ministerial board, and BPP. applying for certificate of no objection, all this, keeping records for at least 10 years. So all these processes, how will this be accepted by the using e-procurement system? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed. Matthew?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed, for your very relevant question. Now, the beauty of the Procure Express is the fact that it was designed and built by Nigerian engineers. And it has features that are customizable. It's built in such a way that it is customizable. What I mean by the fact that it is customizable is that it can be adapted to the processes of an organization. So now, all that you have mentioned, approval levels, different approval levels, tender boards connection to BPP, as long as it's a process that is definable, we can embed it in Procure Express. So what that means is, if you can define the process flow, that can be automated. Now, the issues around the legal part of it might be something that we will possibly need to do some more research into, if there are legal underpinnings as to why the electronic version of procurement cannot happen in the public sector state. But like I reiterate, if the process is clearly defined, no matter the level of approvals, it can happen with Procure Express. Now, talking about information being stored for 10 years or 5 years with the requisite storage capacity, you can store information for even 20 years on a system. So that can be taken care of where system storage is concerned. So these are my thoughts to your question, and I hope that you some insight.
Thank you very much, Matthew. And so another question from the chat room is from Nokia 6.1, and is not displaying. So he says only Lagos State is implementing e-procurement. The larger part of the country hasn't even started implementation on the usual procurement. It appears it will take a very long time for e-procurement to come to full effect. Will there be need for another law approving e-procurement? I think you also answered this question when you were answering Mr. Mohammed about the laws around e-procurement and how we would also do our research as an organization in that area. So another question, also from the same person, this will be directed to Jameson. It's a technical question. What are the security measures towards blocking hackers from getting into e-procurement platforms and web pages? So this is directed to our technical resource. Jameson, can we unmute Jameson so you can respond to this question, please? Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Jameson. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Based on what my colleague have explained, Matthew, we have so many security things that we put in place. Aside from that, we've also have to implement two-factor authentication. That way, before you can have access to any of the module, we need to do a two-factor authentication against the login of that individual. Apart from that, the application is hosted in a more secured environment, meaning that it is not.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The location
yes,
that hosting the solution is very, very, very secured. And we have our technical experts, which is the guys in charge of our network, put a secured network in place for the hosting. Even if we have to host this on premises, there are things that will be required for the company will be putting on their premises to have in place. Apart from that, we also ensure that before you are able to log into the system, we do more of less background check, and your password needs to be changed periodically. These are the things that the hackers get to have when you don't get to change your password periodically to log into the portal. So those are the things that we put in place. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jameson. All right, show of hands. Thought I saw some show of hands. Okay, so I go back to the chat room. Now, there's another question from Mr. Augustine. Is there a way we can have a dedicated vendor whose pedigree is well known under Procure Express? Matthew?
A dedicated vendor?
So he's a vendor, and he wants to register on Procure Express. So he's asking how he can go about it.
Now, if he's a vendor, Procure Express is an application that is bought by or installed by different organizations. So when they install Procure Express, they can call it whatever they want to call it in their individual organizations. So if he's a vendor, he needs to locate the organization he wants to work with, and if they have the e-procurement system, then he can register there. I don't know if I get his question.
Yes, you are right. So Procure Express is usually purchased by organizations or government bodies, as it were, and you have to register under them. So if those organizations use Procure Express, then it's easy for you to register on the platform through that organization. Thank you, Matthew. So there is another question from Abigail, who says, how do you generate an evidence of the procurement processes? I work with an NGO, and all the procurement procedures must be retired to the donor at the end of the project. Is there a system that shows the detailed procedures of the procurement?
Can you come again with that question, please?
All right, let me say it again. How do you generate evidence of the procurement processes? I work with an NGO, and all the procurement procedures must be retired to a donor, that's as an NGO, at the end of the project. Is there a system that shows the detailed procedures of the procurement?
Yeah, that is a very insightful question, and that clearly shows this Procure Express will deliver that particular task seamlessly. The reason being because there's a module that is called the audit trail. Now that audit trail helps to capture every single activity that takes place in the e-procurement application Procure Express. So you can move from the audit trail to the reports module, and from the report module, you can generate whatever reports you would like to see. If it is the entire procurement process end-to-end for a particular procurement brief, you will be able to generate that report and you present it to your stakeholders, if I get what she's talking about. Because you see, how you decided on who to go with will be shown from the job analysis. The criteria as to why you chose who you chose will be showed from the job analysis. You know, the price that was finally reached on, who you gave the order to, the job completion certificate to show that the job was done, how that was audited, and then how payment left your own organization to that organization. The entire thing can be shown to whoever will want it because it's a fully documented process on the system.
Thank you, Matthew. Show of hands. Let's unmute Shwaib Ahmed. He has a question, please. Shwaib Ahmed. Hello, can we unmute Mr. Hamed, please?
You hear me now? Hello?
Hello? Yes,
Hello.
I can hear you.
Good afternoon, team.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for putting this together. I tell you, it's a world-class assembly. And sincerely must thank Mr. Matthew for his panache and for his uncommon intellect. I work for a financial institution, and e-procurement has been the source of our sustainability. It's been such an amazing thing working with e-procurement because there's so much tracking that we do. There is accountability. There is value. But now, the question I want to ask is this, given what your own app has shown and how flexible and at the same time robust your app is there a possibility of you organizing training sessions such that people get certified in e-procurement? There is so much you have there that can be incorporated into our existing system to turn things around for the better. So I'm throwing this to you. Please, how can we get certified in e-procurement? Mr. Matthew, please. Okay, thank you so much for that question. Very relevant question also, I must say. In the course of even putting this together, we got a lot of requests and even prior digital transformation webinars that we've gotten a lot of requests from individuals asking to be certified after they go through this particular training. Now, we have a training academy called Vertebra Academy that trains individuals and organizations across the value chain of digital technologies. So your feedback, I must tell you, is a feedback that we'll take back into our strategy sessions, and I can assure you that we will respond to it adequately, such that we begin to structure some of these our unique and innovative solutions and applications in a way whereby we can give certification and also improve existing ERP solutions that are out there in the marketplace. So thank you so much for that. We've taken your advisory and we'll respond adequately.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Mr. Hamed. Another question from Mr. Akinlola Akinbiyi. Can we unmute Mr. Akinbiyi, please? Hello, Mr. Akinbiyi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matthew. My question has already been asked, so I'm good for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. David Media has a question, please. Can we unmute him? David Media.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. David. You're welcome.
Thank you for giving me this noble and great opportunity to be in this great platform to experience this teaching and seminar of the day. I applaud for you guys. You guys are doing awesome. My question is there an arrangement for young developers who are interested in developing this e-procurement system in such a way that we can come as a group and also be trained?
All right, Mr. David, thank you very much for your interest. You can send a mail to us and then we can further this request. You can send a mail, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so at this point, I would like to say that this webinar is powered by Vertebra Limited. Matthew, can you just
we have some individuals still raising up their hands. I don't know if you've taken them.
Yes, we do. Okay, so let's take Mr. Habibu Mukadas.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Hello, sir.
Afternoon.
Hello,
nice presentation, sir. Sir, my own question is that I can hear you.
Go ahead.
How can I be a certified e-procurement? Hello? I need certificate for e-procurement. Hello? Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
How can I have a certificate? How can I have a certificate for e-procurement?
Okay, thank you very much. Your question is
certified.
Yes, sir. Okay. So your question is similar to the last participant who asked the question about certification in e-procurement. Now, like my colleague has said, we'll take this request back and sit on it in our strategy session and come back to the audience with proper feedback. But Vertebra Limited is a software organization that builds solutions, bespoke solutions, and one of our solutions is Procure Express, that will provide organizations with an efficient and effective way of carrying out their procurement process. Thank you very much for your interest, sir. So another question is from Mrs. Modinat Olusoji. If we can unmute her. Mrs. Olusoji has a question for us.
Thank you very much. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma. Thank you for joining.
Please, my question is it only Procure Express that can be used for e-procurement?
Okay, Matthew, do you want to respond to that?
Okay, when you say, is it only Procure Express that can be used for e-procurement? I'm trying to understand you now. Well, like I said during the presentation, you have other procurement applications out there that can be used for e-procurement. I also alluded to the fact that you can use some ERPs, which are also applications that can be used for e-procurement out there in the marketplace. But the unique thing about Procure Express is the fact that Procure Express is customized for the African and the Nigerian markets. And the beauty of it is that we have it in such a way that it is customizable to the processes of your organization. Most of the e-procurement application you have there in the marketplace will want you to adapt to their own system. But with our own system, we can customize to suit your own process. It is homegrown, it is built for the Nigerian market, it is built for the African market. So that's why we're saying Procure Express is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Mr. Monday Abba says, how long has e-procurement apps been used in Nigeria? I'm guessing he's speaking about eProcure Express. How many organizations have used our eProcure? And then what are the challenges that we have faced over time, over the use of the system? Yes.
Now, our e-procurement application, Procure Express, has been in the marketplace for about 5 years now. We have deployments in the oil and gas sector, deployments in the IT and telecoms sector. Now, part of the challenge in e-procurement has been adapting to change. We find out that a lot of procurement departments are used to pushing paper and wanting to have a situation where they don't want to have full disclosure of the procurement process. So they will still prefer to use their paper. But organizations that want to be sustainable, that want to manage their costs, have embraced this application. So those are part of the challenges in the marketplace, and this has been fixed by continual advocacy and sharing information as to the value that an e-procurement application will bring to the entire organization.
Thank you, Matthew. That was well said. Another question from Oluwemimo Oshidipe. Can we unmute Mr. Oshidipe, please?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are. We can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Matthew, and kudos to Vertebra. My question is that, can the Procurement Express be useful in contract management, especially in terms of performance monitoring of contract, the reporting mechanism, and as well as the audit trail, which supports the assessment of the performance? So that's my question. I would like to know if the Procurement Express can be adopted in this stance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. Now, when I was doing the presentation, I clearly said that one of the modules in our Procure Express is the contract management and job analysis and performance management module. Now, this helps to analyze and review contracts at every stage of the contract's life cycle. You can have that particular that module check how the contract is faring. You can check the delivery time. You can check quality of work, and all of this can be cascaded into a report that you can present to executive management. Now, I had also said that there's an audit trail of the entire procurement process for every procurement brief. So every single procurement brief, you can track from when you identify the need, how you selected the vendors that you wanted to work with, down to when you have paid them, and then you're doing an evaluation of their performance. Everything is captured using Procure Express. So if that is the unique needs that you have, Procure Express can fully serve that need.
Thank you very much, Matthew. So another question is there possibility of consulting with Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy to incorporate e-procurement in the proposed training on e-governance? Did you get that question, Matthew?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I didn't get the name of the person that said that.
Mr. Yes, Olusoji.
Mr. Olusoji, we are very, in fact, one of our core values is partnership. So if you have the legwork, we can work with you to engage the Ministry of Communication and take this your novel idea of positioning Procure Express as one of the contents for their training on e-governance. We can work with you to make that happen. We will be very glad. You know, I mean, part of the reasons why we're also doing this webinar is also for some level of advocacy about the availability of homegrown digital solutions that solve critical problems in our marketplace. So if you have that legwork, we really will be glad to work with you on that. You can send us a mail on the emails displayed, and then we'll take the conversation from there.
Okay, so I'd like to give Mr. Monday Abba a chance. He's raising up his hands. He'll be asking the final question. Mr. Monday Abba.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Matthew and the team from the Vertebra organization. It was a wonderful experience being in this webinar section today. It's a lot of work that has gone in there, and I say kudos to your team. I was the person that asked the question of how long is the Procure Express been in existence, which I've gotten an answer for 5 years. And you guys also know that the area you are trying to apply procurement is a no-go area for most people. So there are likelihood for you to have the challenges you are having. But the thing is for us to keep going. We are abreast with the current challenge in one of the organizations and what is happening, and a lot of dirty linens are being washed outside. If they have this kind of system set in place, we know it will be less work for government and also the people that runs the show. But my question particularly is, I also asked, and I was told the oil industry, the ITs and the blue chip company of this world, what happens to the middle level intending organizations or business interests that want to use this Procure Express, middle level, small level, so that if we have it all integrated in this phase of business networking, looking at the high, the middle, and the low, it will send a lot of messages and signals so that you have an all-encompassing use and reach. That will now take me to the question, what cost probably will it take for somebody to have a Procure Express app judging my position as a one-man business person, but I also do businesses that I need people to supply me, or I need people to bring in things that I'll need that has to do with procurement. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abba. Matthew?
Thank you so much, Mr. Monday Abba. Now, when I spoke about oil and gas, IT and telecom sectors, I did not say that it's only the blue chip or the multinational or the first tier organizations that have embraced this application. I didn't say that. I just spoke about sectors, just to clarify. Now, I had said that this particular product is built for the Nigerian and the African markets, considering the fact that we know today that the bulk of the players in the Nigerian market and the African market are SMEs. So this product is built in such a way that there is flexibility in our pricing to suit the SME market. So what will happen is we will sit with you, our business analyst will sit with you, see what exactly you want to achieve, and give you the features that are relevant to what you want to achieve at the price that works for both you and our organization. So what I would say to you is quickly do us a mail. Let us take this conversation further, and then we can also share the pricing with you after we have looked at the scope of what you want to achieve with the Procure Express. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matthew. That was well said. If we were unable to take all your questions, kindly send your inquiries and your questions to the contact details displayed on the presentation screen right now. Thank you very much, and that ends it from my end. I'd like to pass the baton on to Mosunola.
Thank you, Adela. Thank you so very much. And Matthew, we applaud your effort for today. Well said. So to all our participants today, would like to say a very big thank you for taking your time out to join, and also for the questions that you've asked.
Also,
we'll take it. Yes, please.
Let me just, sorry to cut you, but okay. Let me just quickly say this here, that Vertebra is the foremost provider of information technology solutions in Africa. And this is important because we might have people that are coming on and they are wondering, who is this? Where is this organization coming from? We have been in existence for the past 16 years. Nigeria has, Vertebra has over 16 years experience providing cutting edge digital IT solutions to the Nigerian market and the African market space. Today, we have spread our tentacles to countries in the Western Hemisphere of Africa. We have businesses in Ghana, we have businesses in Sierra Leone, we have businesses in Kampala and also in Nairobi, Kenya. We currently have close to about 100 professionals working in this organization, ranging from project managers to business analysts to finance experts and to business development professionals. We pride ourselves as being the pioneer of online digital solutions in the educational sector, with flagship products across educational institutions in Nigeria today. We are a tax-paying organization, and we are duly registered with all the statutory registration in all regulatory organizations in Nigeria and in all the other countries that we ply our trade. So if you decide to do business with us, you are doing business with a competent and responsible business partner. Thank you. Over to you, Mosu.
Thank you very much, Matthew. On that very note, like I said, thank you to everyone that has attended. Or if you still have further questions, like my colleagues have mentioned, please see the details just right in front of you as displayed on the screen. And someone is still asking if we'll send the slides of the presentation. We'll definitely, for everyone that registered for this presentation, you'll receive a video later this week of the presentation. And as we would like to close today, on this very note, we say thank you. And until next time, thank you so much for joining. Have a good evening, ladies and gentlemen.